Hi, I'm Mickey Delmage of Sherwood Park, Alberta. Hear the latest information from the world of radio, locally and internationally, each week on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, March the 30th, 2025, here on CKUT 90.3 in Montreal. My name's Sheldon, and Jill is with me as usual. Thanks for tuning in. We have a lot of information for you this week. As every week, 30 minutes of what's going on in the world of radio. We will start, as we have for several weeks now, just reminding you about the upcoming annual festival, the NASWA SWL Festival. It is the 38th annual edition, and it is taking place on April the 25th and the 26th. The in-person event is happening in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, and the other element of the weekend will be on Zoom. It will be a virtual event, so basically a hybrid activity for 2 days. Lots of conferences, forums, presentations on different aspects of the radio hobby. If you're interested in radio at all, and if you're listening to us, I'm hoping that you are, you will probably want to be in attendance. So you have two options. If you want to travel to Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, you need to get in touch with them, register for the event, and also if you're staying over, register for your hotel, which is going to be at the Holiday Inn Express and Guest Suites in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. That's where the in-person events will be held as well. For those wishing to participate via Zoom, you do have to register for the event. There is a fee, but there is a special, and this is your last warning on this one. If you get your registration in by April the 1st, you will only have to pay $15. Once April 1st hits, the fee goes up to $20. So if you've been delaying and you really do want to participate in this Zoom event, you should do it as quickly as possible. Get your registration in by April the 1st, and it will cost you just $15. Once the schedule is finalized and all the registrations have come in, there will be no registrations once the event is underway. So again, do it without delay in case you forget about it later on and you get shut out once the event is started. You can go and get all of the information you need at swlfest.com. And if you have any questions, you can email them at swlfest@naswa, NASWA.net. It should be a great event, lots of interesting topics. Gilles is doing a presentation on utility monitoring. There are a couple conferences on software-defined radios. There's a medium wave presentation, pirate forum, lots of other things going on. So you can check out the full schedule on that website as well. Again, it's swlfest.com. We look forward to seeing many of you there for the weekend. We'll be doing a show from there, as we've done in the last number of years as well. So there will be an International Radio Report program being recorded at the festival itself. We got some updates to last week's show where we told you what was going away. Well, this week we're telling you about some things that are coming back to the radio.
So, we have the Trump administration that is sued over shuttering of VOA. This is by Filip Timotija of The Hill. The Voice of America, VOA, workers, reporters, unions, and Reporters Without Borders filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, contending that shuttering the U.S.-funded news agencies violated several laws and asked the court to reinstate VOA. The lawsuit, which was filed late Friday in the Southern District of New York, was brought by a handful of unions, RSF, and 6 VOA reporters against U.S. Agency for Global Media, the USAGM, VOA's parent company. Acting Director Victor Morales and Special Advisor Carrie Lake, VOA's White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara, is the main plaintiff in the case. The plaintiffs said the administration efforts to terminate the news agency violated the First Amendment rights of VOA's employees, and they asked the court to restore USAGM grantee news outlets and that funds for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Asia, and Middle Eastern Broadcasting Network should resume. In many parts of the world, a crucial source of objective news is gone, and only censored state-sponsored news media is left to fill the void. Defendants have violated all of these laws by closing USAGM and ceasing altogether the business of gathering and disseminating news and opinion via VOA and its sister service Radio y Televisión Martí, as well as its grantee affiliates RFERL, RFA, and MBN. Defendants' actions are unconstitutional and unlawful. They must cease immediately, they wrote in the complaint. Last weekend, VOA reporters, along with other news outlets, employees, and contractors, were put on administrative leave a day after Trump penned an executive order to eliminate USAGM, The Hill reported. The internal memo said the workers were placed on administrative leave with full pay and benefits until otherwise notified, and that the decision was not made for any disciplinary purpose. What is happening to the VOA journalists is not just the chilling of First Amendment speech, it is a government shutdown of journalism, a prior restraint that kills content before it can be created, the plaintiffs said in court filing. Trump's decision to eliminate USAGM came as a shock to many VOA staffers. Some said the decision to halt the outlet's work would embolden authoritarians around the globe where press freedom is limited or non-existent. Dictators around the world are celebrating this and laughing at us, one VOA staffer told The Hill this week. Everyone is just so sad because so many of us have dedicated our lives to spreading the truth in places where no light shines. Republicans have argued that VOA spreads left-wing propaganda and that should be defunded. Trump anchor has been the acting senior advisor at USAGM. She supported Trump's executive order, argued the agency is irretrievably broken, and that those who are talented within it are more the exception, not the rule. From top to bottom, this agency is a giant rot and burden to the American taxpayer, a national security risk for the nation, and irretrievably broken. While there are bright spots within the agency with personnel who are talented and dedicated public servants, this is the exception rather than the rule. On Tuesday, RFERL filed a lawsuit against Lake and the Trump administration over its push to defund the outlet. The plaintiffs in the lawsuit filed in Washington, D.C.'s federal court said the outlet's funding was instantly halted and it has been unable to receive a recent $7.4 million invoice. Whether to disburse funds as directed by appropriations laws and whether to make those funds available through grants as directed by the International Broadcasting Act is not an optional choice for the agency to make. The lawsuit said it is the law. Urgent relief is needed to compel the agency to follow the law. A spokesperson for USAGM did not immediately respond to The Hill's request for comments. Getting sued, getting a lot of people that are angry saying, look, this is kind of illegal maybe that you're actually doing this right now. But at least something's happening, and hopefully we might hear these voices again.
You know, it's easy to say that what the Voice of America and these other stations are putting out on the radio, particularly to Americans who probably don't listen to these broadcasts. They don't know what they are. Many of them don't know what the Voice of America is. So it's very easy to say, well, you know, they're putting out this information. It's fake news. It's whatever. So we're just stopping it. And, you know, I think a lot of people are just going to say, oh, you know, that sounds like a good idea. We should do that. If that's what they're doing, we should stop it and we should save all that money. And I think that's what they're playing off of. So it is, as you said, it's really good to see that somebody's trying to stand up to it and challenge what the administration has done. So we'll see if it has an impact. On a more positive story, though, We hear from Radioworld staff in an article that Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty is back in business. The U.S. Agency for Global Media has rescinded its letter terminating RFERL's grant agreement for the fiscal 2025. The agreement is therefore back in effect, RFERL said in a press release. According to the website, The Hill, the Trump administration restored funding for both RFERL, Radio Free Europe, and Radio Liberty, and the Open Technology Fund after the group sued. The Hill reports that the judge will hold a hearing Monday if the agreement falls through. RFERL President and CEO Stephen Capus said in its release on Thursday, "This is an encouraging sign that RFERL's operation will be able to continue as Congress intended. We await official confirmation from USAGM that grant funding will promptly resume based on the intention expressed in last night's letter. We are eager to speak directly with USAGM leadership about the extraordinary and cost-effective work that RFERL performs for the American people." This is not the first time for RFERL to go silent. Millions of people rely on us for factual information in places where censorship is widespread. We must not cede ground to our adversaries at a time when threats to America are on the rise. The notification follows a ruling this week by a U.S. District Court judge imposing a temporary restraint order on USAGM over its termination of congressionally appropriated funding. RFERL had brought suit against the agency. Acting CEO Victor Morales and Senior Advisor Carrie Lake, USAGM, has not replied to Radioworld requests for any comments. So they're back. They're getting basically money that was already budgeted for them and promised to them. So they're just basically asking for what legally they were supposed to get, which had been stopped. So at least that we know is going to be back in operation again. Whether the administration will try to step in and say, okay, you're on the air and you can broadcast, but what is it that you are broadcasting? So we may hear more on this yet. It may not be the same programming and same storylines that they were putting out previously.
So in another news, we have Radio TV Martí staffers back to work after Trump order took them off job. This is by Trent Kelly, Local 10 News, South Florida. Cars pulled into the parking lot at Radio and TV Martí headquarters in Doral Wednesday morning, the first signs of activity after an executive order from President Donald Trump essentially shut down the government-funded broadcast channels by putting all of their workers on paid temporary leave. While it wasn't clear who was returning Wednesday, the order signed by Trump more than a week ago instructed all employees to remain off the property and on call to return to work within a day's notice. The stations were originally formed during the Reagan administrations to promote democracy overseas. The organization beams Spanish-language newscasts directly into Cuba to counter disinformation and provide a direct source of objective journalism to the island. The other is part of a plan to dismantle the office that oversees Martí, along with 6 other agencies overseen by the U.S. Agency for Global Media. The move is drawing criticism from many, including U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz in Florida, who called it a gift to the Cuban regime. He's scathing when it comes to fighting communism and autocracy. A Republican counterpart, Representative Carlos Gimenez, described the initial move against Martí as more of an evaluation period during a This Week in South Florida interview with Local 10's Glenna Milberg. I think it has to be evaluated, and each agency head is going to do that and come back with a recommendation, he said. It's not clear when or if the agency's broadcast will be restored. Local 10 contacted the U.S. Agency for Global Media seeking comment and has not heard back as of 12:30 p.m. Wednesday. Bella Nunes of Cuba Headlines reports Cuban-American Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar has expressed her delight at the resumption of Radio Television Martí's broadcast to Cuba, emphasizing its critical role as a beacon of freedom and truth in the face of the communist regime's censorship. In a post on X, Salazar urged the United States to remain steadfast in supporting the Cuban people's struggle for democracy while highlighting the station's historic significance as a tool for unfiltered information. Since 1985, Radio Martí has stood as a beacon of truth and a symbol of hope for the Cuban people. I am thrilled to know that Radio Martí is back on the air, she wrote. Salazar underscored the necessity of standing alongside those fighting for freedom and democracy against the communist dictatorship on the island. From the outset, she opposed the closure of Radio and TV Martí, noting their crucial role in countering the regime's propaganda and ensuring access to uncensored information. Radio Martí serves as a crucial source of uncensored information and a beacon of hope, countering the Cuban regime's propaganda and providing the Cuban people with access to truthful reporting. So this is interesting. We're not exactly sure what's going to come out. They're back to work, but what will be the next step? And if there's programming coming out, what will it sound like starting from now?
I think that's the case in all of these stories is the service is back, but will the content be changed in some way? That's the part that nobody is really sure of at this point in time. And I guess until people start monitoring these transmissions, that's when we'll find out if things have changed.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, did you notice that propagation was rather crappy this week? It really was. What happened really is that a huge coronal hole in the sun made a lot of solar wind brush against our geomagnetic field, and we were constantly at the edge of geomagnetic storms into geomagnetic storms, which meant that there was a lot of things happening on the radio propagation side. And unfortunately, a lot of it was making signals weaker, and a lot of signals or stations were even difficult to tune into. So what's going to happen this week ahead? Well, that solar wind is still brushing against our planet. We do have a sunspot, 4043, that is crackling with some M-class solar flares. So we probably will start the week in the same type of conditions, but things could get better as the week goes by and as that coronal hole is moving away. It could actually become more quiet. And so the sunspot number is 72, the solar flux 153. But to witness all of it, you'll need a radio, and you need to turn it on.
I'm Skip Airy, N2EI of Southern New Jersey. If you're interested in radio, AM, FM, shortwave, amateur radio, pirate broadcasting, and more, you won't want to miss the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
So we do have some information about stations on shortwave. Some of them, as Gilles said, moving around, changing frequencies with the new broadcasting period. But to begin with, we have news of a new Spanish and English service from the Radio Nacional Amazonia. Now, this is a shortwave station that exists in Brazil. We have an item coming from Alokesh Gupta via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio IO group. And it's somewhat surprising. This is a station that's been around for a long time. If you tune around shortwave, you've probably heard them. They always have a lot of great music from Brazil. But starting March 31st, Radio Nacional de Amazonia will debut an international program on its schedule aimed at audiences from other countries who follow the program on shortwave. The 10-minute programs in Spanish and English will air, we believe, because the time has been fluctuating a little bit. The last we've heard is that it will appear daily at 0150 UTC. The creation of the Brazil International Service came from QSL requests received by the broadcaster. Because it operates on shortwave, Radio Nacional da Amazônia is the only radio station in the country that can have national and even international coverage. It potentially reaches 60 million inhabitants. With a signal, it reaches the entire northern region, as well as Maranhão, Piauí, Bahia, Minas Gerais, Mato Grosso, Goiás, and other states in Brazil. The radio station strengthens the link between the communities of the Amazon, integrates the region and other states in Brazil, and values cultural diversity. The content will be translated into audio by the translation teams at Empresa Brasil de Comunicação, the EBC. Due to our international reach, we receive many requests for QSL cards at night. Many are from Spanish or English-speaking countries. In this new time slot, we have chosen to highlight some of our content on our programming, such as interviews that have aired on international or cultural topics that are relevant beyond Brazil. This strengthens Radio Nacional's position as a broadcaster without borders, highlights EBC's executive radio manager, Tiago Regato. In addition to showcasing the richness of the Amazon and its global importance, the track will also highlight the broadcaster's role in public communication, reinforcing its commitment to connecting populations within and outside the country. So you should be able to find Radio Nacional de Amazonia on two frequencies, 11780 kilohertz and 6180 kilohertz. Of course, most of their programming is in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. And so this is something brand new. To be able to hear a couple other languages services on this station will be really great for shortwave listeners who speak those languages. And to hear something out of Brazil, a country that used to have a national service but doesn't any longer, an international service, I should say. So this is a step in the right direction to giving people access to some new programming in 2 additional languages. We don't think these broadcasts are going to be very long, though. From the reports that are coming out, we may only be looking at 10 minutes. 10 minutes is better than nothing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if you like Brazilian music, I think Radio Nacional de Amazonia has many nights a week, even on the weekends, some beautiful Brazilian music to listen to. 11780 here in Montreal is like very strong all evening. So this is going to be interesting. Hopefully the time is going to be what we're telling you, because we've seen a few conflicting reports of what the time was. But it's kind of nice to see that they've decided to come back in some English and Spanish. There was also an interesting article while I was searching for more details on this station. They're saying that at some point they wanted to shut down the shortwave service, and they noticed when they had a transmitter issue that a big chunk of Brazil, a lot of people don't have internet access, and so you can't listen online. The only time you can listen is with a radio, and so they kind of told them, we need shortwave to cover the whole country. So this is pretty cool. We'll be listening. I will be listening, that's for sure.
Yeah, as for the time, I'd recommend just, put them on in the evening and leave the station on, as Jill said, here in the east coast of North America. 11780 is generally very good. So just keep listening, and hopefully you'll catch the Spanish and the English new services on the station.
And of course, there's a lot of changes coming as we are in a new schedule season starting today. So that means all the schedules are now different, the frequencies used, and sometimes even the time change. So there's a lot of things that we'll share. We'll share the BBC's A25 schedule that was sent by Alokesh Gupta and Glenn Hauser's World Radio I.O. group. So we'll share a PDF file with all the languages and the broadcasts for the A25 schedules of the BBC on shortwave. So we'll post all the details for that.
We also have the media broadcast shortwave schedule for A25. This is from Alexander Myatlikov, also via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio IO group. There are a list of broadcasters who use the media broadcasting facilities, the MBR. And some of these I wasn't aware of. Adventist World Radio, High Adventure Gospel Bible Voice Broadcasting, the Deutsche Welle, the German broadcaster, Evangelische Mission Gemeinden in Germany, in Deutschland, Reach Beyond, the former HCJB, Music for Joy, I have no idea what that one's all about, NHK Japan Broadcasting Corporation, Radio 60, Studio 52, Sender Königs Wursthausen EV, SM Radio Dessau, and Telstar Radio. So some of these are satellite services out of this organization, but there are some shortwave as well. So again, we'll post a PDF with all of the details of their full schedule of various broadcasters that use their transmission facilities.
Another broadcaster that, hey, surprise, surprise, maybe you thought they were gone from shortwave, but nope, they still have a few broadcasts. The Deutsche Welle from Germany is on shortwave for A25. This is via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio IO group. They're there with two different languages, Arabic from 12:15 to 13 UTC on Wednesday on 15275, 17800, and Amharic from 16 to 17 UTC daily on 15275 and 17800. And once again, Arabic, 1830 to 1915 UTC on Wednesdays, 15275 and 17840. The shortwave sites are not specified, but it says the HFCC A25 has more Deutsche Welle listings, but these are 15275 at 12:15 and 16 from Issoudun, France, 15275 at 1830 from Now in Germany, and 17800 at 12:15 and 16 Issoudun, France, 17840 and 1830 from Now in Germany. Everything else is streaming and or satellite only. So a few things left for Deutsche Welle if you want to catch them up on the shortwave bands. And we have upcoming ham radio contests.
If you still want to tune the ham bands after probably being exhausted from the WPX contest last weekend, which was keeping you very busy, I'm sure. We have, first off, coming up next weekend, the Louisiana QSO Party, 1400 Zulu April 5th to 0200 Zulu April the 6th. That one's organized by the Louisiana Contest Club. 160 meters all the way through 2 meters, no WARC bands. That one you can operate phone, CW, or digital modes.
The Unión de Radioaficionados Españoles, the URE, has the RTTY Contest, 1200 Zulu April 5th to 1200 Zulu April 6th. It is in RTTY Baudot mode, so it's radio teletype, and the bands 10, 15, 20, 40, and 80 meters.
The Polish Amateur Radio Union, the PZK, is holding the Polish DX contest, 1500 Zulu April 5th to 1500 Zulu April the 6th, 160 through 10 meters, no WARC bands, and that one is both CW and SSB modes.
And we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in. Lots of information for you this week. We try to jam in as much as we can into 30 minutes. We invite you to email us with any questions or comments, radioreport@yahoo.com. Our show live streams and is archived at our station's website, ckut.ca. Our Facebook group, you can post comments, ask questions, interact with other listeners. It is International Radio Report. We welcome Cheryl in Montreal as a new member of the Facebook group. And we have, of course, our YouTube channel where you can go and listen to our programs, new ones, and go back and listen to older shows. We have over 1,000 subscribers on the channel. You can subscribe and find the broadcasts at youtube.com/@IRR. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with 30 minutes more of information about radio on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.